Good morning, everyone. Thanks for showing up after this busy week. Much appreciated. And now I'm back in the picture. So, Freedom Browser is also privacy technology, but mainly it's about the decentralized web and decentralized technology. So it's kind of interesting how privacy is almost a side effect of what we're doing anyway with the technology in the background, by being essentially supporting serverless infrastructure, and just the way the protocols that we're using are built, they have privacy built in by default. So to be completely private is a very easy step for us. We didn't actually put this as a top priority yet. It was more getting the decentralized part running. So it's interesting to be here almost by accident, like, hey, yeah, of course it's private, yeah, because that's a default that I live by myself for a long time already, and that these underlying protocols really support. So, Freedom Browser. Just as the initial premise, decentralization is great, and there's a lot of decentralized technology out there, and it's working since quite a while. But it requires user participation. So users need to be part of the decentralized networks and also make, let's say, informed choices to use decentralized protocols. It's not something that they get to use by default. So that's an issue. At the moment, a lot of things run through gateways or centralized infrastructure and are kind of masking, again, the actually decentralized infrastructure behind centralized gateways. So that's the issue I just mentioned. So the decentralized protocols are often accessed through fragile gateways. So kind of defeating the point again. And it has become let's say a norm, or like the go-to way to do for the last few years. And it has worked quite well. It's for most applications acceptable, until it's not, right? So there was a few famous hacks. There was downtimes of RPC providers. They are also fed up with all that freebie traffic. So it's becoming more and more fragile. And I think this year, really, 26, people are waking up to, hey, we need something else, right? We need to become fully decentralized. We need to think about thick clients, not thin clients so much. So like outsourcing a lot of the computation and verification, not outsourcing it, but actually doing the work ourselves. So on the client, with the user, in the user space. So to not expose them to fragile gateways like this. Gateways are not just fragile, they also reintroduce trust and control, and by that, a lot of power. So if you run a gateway to a decentralized network, you can filter out things, and we see this with existing gateways for decentralized web, that they are approached by law enforcement as well, for various reasons, most of them like very good reasons, but you need to then comply and censor, and if you don't have a censorship mechanism in place, you just follow these, and if you don't have a big legal department, you need to give in to these control mechanisms that already exist in centralized infrastructure. So the gatekeepers are coming back if you use decentralized technology. If you use centralized technology, of course. And the users that I mentioned earlier, they are not participants. They are merely just passive users that get something served to them that they have to accept. And this is something that is largely defined through browsers and other client software, but the browser really, for a lot of the, let's say, DeFi experience and for other decentralized applications like that, are the gatekeepers. So they are the expression of it, and they are in the hands of some quite, let's say, monopoly pushing companies. Google is one to name. There's a few exceptions to that, but most of the traffic runs to very heavily monopolized browser infrastructure. So whatever they put in, whatever they get lobbied for, or whatever they think is right, will define the experience of the user. So that's an issue, but it's also an opportunity. So we set out to think about this and say, okay, what if we put a network node to a decentralized network directly into the browser, and by that, building the browser of our dreams. So that's something we did with Freedom Browser, and not just one node. We essentially have an open framework for all sorts of decentralized nodes, so you don't have to install or download and install them separately. These nodes ship with the browser and make it very, very easy to access the decentralized networks, and they behave very, let's say, alike to what you're used to anyway. You don't need to set up anything extra. It just comes with it in an easy packaging. And that was the original vision of this, and also the guiding principle, and also the inspiration. So I went to a privacy-focused camp near Berlin last year. I met Brewster Kahle of the Archive, and him and also other people in workshops were envisioning or really pushing for an application that is becoming a node, is a reading device for the decentralized web, for the censorship resistant and decentralized infrastructure, and also at the same time a writing device, and also an easy to use package. You just download one application and it does all these things. Tall order, especially with the state of UX in the D-Web as it was. And then I was setting out, so at that camp I was more or less passive. I kind of took it all in. It was my return to, let's say, the cypherpunk scene after like almost 10 years of absence. And I realized, okay, let's do some research, let's put some things together, and this must exist somewhere, right? So we have IPFS, we have Swarm. These networks exist for quite some time. There must be an easy way just for end users to use it. And to my big surprise, there wasn't. So there was Brave, the Brave browser that had implemented IPFS for a while, even with its own node. They shipped it with a node, but they stopped support, I think it was a few years ago, for that. So there was a huge gap. And if we expect people to use decentralized technology or decentralized web, we need to give them an easy way to do that, right? So techies can set it up, but even for me, sometimes these things are too cumbersome, especially if I move between different devices. And on mobile, it looked even worse. So there was no real way on mobile except using centralized gateways to access D websites. And I was like, that's a real issue. That's a complete gap. So then I set out to build some prototypes, and within the first night, there was a vibe-coded browser there that bundled a Swarm node with a kind of a small, simple browser Chrome entry field, passing it onto the local gateway, and then making it possible to accept or access these websites very, very easily. So that was the dream experience, and I was like, okay, I just built it, so that's great. Let's go from here and see where things can go. So Freedom now is shipped as a product, and it runs Swarm and IPFS locally, meaning, it ships with the software, and when you launch it the first time, it generates the necessary identity on the fly without you doing anything, and then booting up the nodes, and after a few seconds, letting you connect to these websites. You type swarm.eth or vitalik.eth as native domains into the URL bar, and they get resolved, and then they get shipped to you in the browser, and there's nothing else you need to do. No gateways, and the real power of having a thick client like that is at your fingertips, and it's very, very easy to use, a very, very easy to use package. And so the name resolutions, or the names that I just mentioned, .eth is not a native internet domain yet. It doesn't follow the same DNS principles like .org, .com, .info, .whatever. It is a completely separate way to think about naming on the internet. It uses a smart contract on the Ethereum blockchain where essentially all the management of names is done in a completely decentralized way and cryptographically signed and proof, and in some way much more secure or robust and also private than the existing domain name system is. So privacy, again, almost a side effect. So names are resolved locally, the ENS names, and mostly. So that's actually the one choke point that we have where we are still dependent on more or less centralized infrastructure, because to query a huge smart contract that's like living on the Ethereum blockchain, you need actually to do that locally a full snapshot of the Ethereum blockchain, which is I don't know how many gigabytes now, maybe even in the terabytes area. It's not really something feasible, especially for mobile, or it's actually impossible on mobile. You can't do that. So we need to find creative solutions. So we query centralized gateways. We compare the result by querying several of them, and then we kind of make a quorum, and we reduce the chances of a name server being taken over by a hostile party, or the name server simply not being available. We also introduced something else that's doing more proof on the client side, but it's still dependent on external APIs. So that's really an open, let's say, issue we still want to address. The Ethereum light client ecosystem is still at the very infancy. There's some promising solutions, and we're also using it. We're using Colibri, which is not essentially a light client, but it does a lot of the, let's say, verification, at least locally. So the ETH domain I mentioned already. The ENS system has a field where it points to a content hash. A content hash is something like an IP address in the traditional world. It points the browser or any client to a piece of content on the decentralized network. Those are like long strings, numbers you can't remember, and they change constantly. If you update the content, or if you like want to address it like to sub elements of that content. So to have human readable names, you need ENS, the Ethereum naming system, and you then tell your domain name, let's say meinhard.eth, okay, my newly uploaded website is now living on this hash, so you connect that, and then the smart contract knows where to find and where to point browser users. And so then the content is fetched completely peer-to-peer, meaning the browser gets a domain name, meinhard.eth, and resolves the ENS name, the content hash, and throws that content hash into the decentralized network and says, hey, who has content that lives on this address, on this hash? And then the network does its magic, reaches out to sometimes hundreds of nodes, or at least dozens, to fetch the initial content, and then it looks for little chunks. So like your website can be hosted at the same time on like hundreds of websites, or like 100 servers and nodes. And then the local node puts it all back together and then displays it to the user. So it's quite magical when you see it working, when you think about what's happening in the background, the very, very complex reassembly of data chunks that are hosted completely decentralized on many different computers. And that the whole economy behind it, that all of these people that supply bandwidth and storage is also being covered in the protocol. So there's different protocols that have different focuses. IPFS being one and Swarm being the other. Those are integrated in Freedom Browser. And we also support something called Radical. Radical is a decentralized GitHub. So if you develop code, if you want to not rely on Microsoft for hosting it or other centralized services to kind of get people access to it, you can use Radical, which is also a peer-to-peer network that hosts your code between different computers. And fun fact, Freedom also ships with its own source code that when you switch on Radical is being sent or being made available to other people on the Radical network at the same time. So it kind of makes sure it survives by itself. And this is what Freedom looks like. It's a little bit dark, but you can see when you switch it on, you have the Swarm node running, you have the IPFS node running, and they count up nodes that they connect to, and they're kind of ready to go. And that's kind of the main piece actually that makes it different. You see, talking about difference, it mimics Chrome. It's not Chrome, it's Chromium in the background, like in terms of rendering, or that's the engine that renders the content. But all the interface is designed to look very familiar and in a way non-threatening. So any novice can use it. And we're proud that a lot of non-technical users also have installed Freedom, and they're using it, and they are immediately familiar with it. And they give us good feedback of what they would expect in terms of features to have it as a daily driver. So daily driver, that's kind of what we initially didn't aim for. We wanted to build a specialized browser just for the DWeb. But the more people tell us, hey, this is cool if you add this feature or if you make it more private or add another network, I want to use it as a daily driver. I'm fed up with Chrome, and what browser X and browser Y are doing, I don't like recently, and I'm losing some settings, or they start charging for stuff by taking away things. I don't want that. I want a crypto-native browser that's doing everything for me, and it's just also coming from an independent new organization. So that's us. And also, this is actually also a dream come true for myself personally when it comes to wallet usage. So for connecting DeFi apps to a wallet, there's Wallet Connect, there's other ways to do that. There's plugins and extensions for the browsers. In some way, it was always a little bit shaky, or there was something missing, like a connection between the wallet and the app didn't work, or it lost the connection. Sometimes it was a little bit flaky, especially on non-EVM chains. That happens a lot. So what I ended up using was the browser inside the wallet software. So like a wallet software on my mobile, especially on mobile. I was using the browser that was inside there. Very minimal browser often that doesn't work. It doesn't have all the features, but it injects the wallet directly into the website, and that was often the most frictionless way to use DeFi or other, let's say, Web3 applications. So, and now we actually can ship this on all platforms. So Freedom exists on macOS, on Linux, on Windows as well, of course. And we are about to ship mobile versions as well, which you can then upload download in the app stores. And this will give us a lot of reach, I think. And if you just, especially on mobile, where the experience looks pretty cool already, what we've built. We can also, as a side effect, redesign the browser of our dreams from a UI UX perspective, right? So we can just give it the features or make it as minimal as possible. It's a great freedom, and it's something we also like to collect feedback on from you. And so the browser is open. You can download it and build it and run it and contribute. Actually, after this, there will be a workshop directly after this, where I let people explore the code and then explore the APIs that are built in, and how you can actually use Freedom as a development platform for your decentralized applications. So what's next? Next, we're shipping Ant and Lumo. Ant and Lumo are our own implementations of the Swarm network node and the IPFS node. We decided that on mobile especially, what is out there is not optimized for a mobile footprint, especially on the IPFS side. So we casually re-implemented everything in Rust, especially with a light node focus, where like hosting full content for these networks isn't the main focus. Uploading, yes, but focusing on download, and also like quick off and on times. So when you leave an app, often it gets shut down after a while, and you need a node that quickly reconnects. So that's a technical limitation that we had that we overcame by re-implementing our nodes, or the nodes for the networks we support. JavaScript applications, this is more interesting for developers. I will get into that in the workshop in depth. Mobile applications that I mentioned, and also funding, actually. So we want to transform this into a stable organization with a long perspective, also for the safety of the users, that this product will exist in 2, 5, 10 years. So we are building an organization now. That's a new thing to make this into a full-time thing for us. And super exciting moment, of course, to do that. Especially in this crypto winter, where you really can focus on building without a lot of distraction. So if you want to give us feedback, join our Telegram group, Freedom Browser, or download Freedom Browser at freedom.baby. Thank you very much. I think we might have time for 1 or 2 questions. Let's start maybe with one question first. Anyone? Yes, you.
Yeah, thank you so much for the talk and for the project. This is really amazing. I mean, you talked about the big browsers that we have, and like I'm really a big Firefox fan, but like one of the issues is you can't get code into it anymore, right? It's like there's actually have been multiple attempts to try to get PRs merged to support some of the open Web3 protocols, but they kind of stalled out, and then there's politics and nothing happens. So what do you think on that perspective, on like permissionlessness maybe for your browser? Like, can you have extensions, and how would you see that in the future world, so we don't get into the same situation of like just having monopolies controlling the whole thing?
So we do accept PRs. From first-time contributors, we're a bit more careful, obviously, because supply chain attacks and all of that, like hidden code, these things happen. And we had actually an attempt of that, where someone kind of snuck in something that was, not the feature that they described in the PR. Very interesting attack vector. So we need to be careful with that. So we do that, but that's not scalable, as other companies or other projects prove. So extensions and plugins. So I grew up in a world where you could put a plugin into the Netscape browser that could completely change the experience, add new protocols, add like a Java runtime engine and these kind of things. Did crazy stuff, and it was amazing, right? But then the browser developers also realized, hey, this is taking away control from us, especially ad blocking. Hey, we live off ads, that's our whole company is an ad company, an ad distribution company. So yeah, no ad blockers, the APIs will just cut down, and extensions, we will just give them less and less rights. We have the opposite approach because we believe in other ideals, and also our funding source is not ads, for example, and so we don't need to bend the knee to these sort of powers, and that's why it's not there yet, but we will introduce an open plugin or extension architecture for sure. Yeah, so that's our solution to that. Time for one more, or?
Yeah, I wanted to ask a very basic question, like, is every running instance of the browser an exit node for other users, or you don't like route these network requests among instances?
So it's not really like an onion system that we use. So what you do, so there's obviously a firewall issue as well. So we do open ports on the firewall automatically, or the nodes do that. Especially our own implementations have some optimization regarding that. At this point, it passes on just chatter on the network. Hey, I'm a node, I'm here, and I'm connected to these nodes. So that's the kind of stuff that it passes on. And also requests for hashes, I'm not sure actually, but you're not serving content like in a torrent-like system at this point yet. Apart from the Radical node, I think it does a bit of that. Yeah, they are not full nodes per se, especially IPFS and Swarm. But the plan is also to enable that for people that want it optionally. So, earn money with your browser. So that's kind of also a vision that I think could increase usage. And maybe at some point have a sort of a messaging protocol in it as well. So then you will serve content. From a legal perspective, we, I think, need to make this definitely opt-in, like especially serving content that you don't know the content of. But there are encryption mechanisms, and also the way the networks are built. Often it's like almost like zero knowledge that you have of what you are hosting and what you're passing on through the network. That's like, it's an opportunity, but also a bit of a liability as well, especially from a legal perspective. But yeah, at this point we don't use the upload too much, let's say, in summary. Especially for mobile, that's very important. Oh, Victor, one more.
So you have mentioned that ad blocker is not a problem because ads are not your funding source. But what is your funding source, if I may ask?
Yeah, so
or model at least. What's your model?
The business model, right? So far we live off donations and also our own funds. That's not a sustainable. Donations could be. Wikipedia proves that, but in order to move fast and also maybe have strategic alliances, we do fund ourselves in the future with VC, just to kind of get the company going or the project going. The income sources are essentially typical wallet and DeFi app sources at the beginning. So because we have a built-in wallet or different wallets supporting different networks, there are financial transactions that are possible, especially in the DeFi area. So doing swaps or doing payments or doing bridging. And also top-ups. So for Swarm, for example, as you're well aware, you need to top up some cryptocurrency. And some people want to do that maybe using fiat or using other currencies than the Gnosis-based currencies. So we will do some bridging and some top-up, maybe through even credit cards or debit cards and Apple Pay, and facilitate the whole payment process and charge a small fee on that. So, you know, a UI fee, if you will. And that's going to make us sustainable in the long run, because even very little interaction from that and income from that compared to a huge user base. So this relies on a user base that's large enough to sustain with small fees that we can do this. So it will be, so I personally, I have no issue paying you know, a fraction of my payment if the convenience is completely there. If I can just, you know, get out my phone and do Apple Pay, and they take, I don't know, 0.5% or 1% of you know, the relatively small amount that I'm doing, I'm totally fine with that. And I think many people are, especially when they have all the convenience that comes with it. So in just one line or one word, transaction fees. Okay, so thank you very much for listening, and do join my workshop. Bring your laptop, set up your Git. Thank you very much.